There's going to be more and more promises of AI being the thing that's going to give us better matches. But I think, again, it's a fallacy because I just don't think human connection works like that. You can't shop for people.
We're losing our ability to connect and be vulnerable. I think that's something that we all need to practice.
If I'm not knowing myself and I'm not being honest and I'm not showing up as my authentic self, then how can I ever attract the person who's right for me?
Flirting is just like the goodness of life. I assure you, women love to be flirted with. Women love to be complimented if you mean it, yeah? Not if you're just making it up.
People think of flirting as sexual, but it's just about making people feel good.
It's really not about finding a match. It's about creating human connection and community in a world where that's been really lost. The future is, in real life, human connection. I want to talk about sex.
Fuck yeah.
Welcome to another episode of the Humankinder podcast. Today we're here to talk about love and our search for love and human connection in the modern world. My guests today are Ilana Orlievsky and Esha Thaper, and they're trying to do something about this modern dating crisis that we hear so much about. They've started a boutique matchmaking community called The List, which is all about creating a space for love to thrive in real life. So Ilana, Esha, welcome, and thank you for being here.
We're so excited.
So excited. Also a little nervous.
Of course, I'm
Yes.
excited and nervous too. Yeah. It's a real minefield out there from what I'm hearing from guy friends, girlfriends, and people say modern dating is a minefield, modern dating is in crisis. From the conversations that you are having with people, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm seeing a lot of people really struggle, and a lot of people who, like myself, I was single for quite a while before my last relationship, and because of the apps and because of the way they've made the availability of a date very easy for a lot of people. I wouldn't say that that's for everybody, but for a lot of people, they've made the availability of the date easy, or it's given us the illusion that, anyone can just be single and be out there and get on their phone and find someone. And that's a complete fallacy because connection doesn't work like that. You can't shop for people. But I think that the environment that we've created has made us feel like that. And then what that means is that a lot of people who get out there and are looking for someone actually don't do don't do enough to develop themselves, or think about what they really want, or think about their bad patterns, because they just get into a cycle. I know that happened to me, and I see that happening to a lot of other people. And I think for both men and women, there's who have been looking for someone for a while, or just aren't finding that thing they thought they were going to have at this point in their life. They're really frustrated. And I think that that's why you see a new I see multiple articles every day in major papers, podcasts, everything about this topic. It's constant. And we just want to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It really does seem to be something that more and more people are struggling with. And I'm curious about, who are you seeing that's most affected here?
I think that, well, look, it affects a lot of people. I think that a lot of people who are in relationships or who have been in relationships for a long time actually say that, I don't know many single people, or I just don't know anyone that's single. But I've done a lot of research around the numbers, and it's hard to find exact numbers, but there's something like 40 to 45 or 46% of the adult population of Australia is in a married or de facto relationship. And then there's about 5 to 6 million where they could be single, or this group of people doesn't have a ongoing long-term partnership either, including like someone they don't live with. But that number of 5 to 6 million, it's hard to know exactly who's single, but the official government stats actually say about 3 point something million people are on dating apps. So I think we can sort of safely assume that maybe between 4 to 5 million adult Australians are single. So I'm seeing it affect a lot of people basically, but probably people who are above 30 to say 50 who are, there's a lot of people in that group and essentially people who've been dating for a while. And a while could be anything from 2 years to we met someone recently who had been single for 13 to 14 years and had just been on a merry-go-round of going on dates.
So actively dating for 13 years and not being able to find someone.
Yeah, and probably maybe not actively in that whole time, but they probably have tried a lot over that time and had lots of disappointments. Yeah.
Is that something the same you're seeing? Are you seeing differences in who's coming forward here between men and women, or what's the split like?
I think what we are seeing and what we probably did expect from the beginning at this point, although we do feel that this is going to change for sure once we launch, is that we're getting more women come onto the list. And I think that's not because there are more single women necessarily in those kind of age groups, but just because I think women are probably a little bit more likely to lean in a little and kind of engage with this process, which is actually quite a intentional process. You need to be really, really clear about, what you're looking for, being able to be vulnerable. We start by sending our, we call them listlings, a form, and they need to fill out a set of questions. And it's not intended to be, hugely arduous or time consuming, but it definitely does get you to really think about where you're at, what you're looking for, who you are as a person. Have you done some work on yourself, etc.? We really go into quite a lot of details. So what we are seeing is that, yes, women are generally more open to engaging in this way, but really it's affecting everyone who has tried and tired of the dating apps and is really just wanting to find an authentic connection.
Yeah, let's talk about dating apps because they've influenced a lot of different factors this in interesting ways. And some of the recent stats that I read was that over 50% of relationships now are happening on the apps. Somewhere between 40 and 60 now for a while, for the last couple of years, I think. How have the apps influenced the dating world? What have you seen?
Where do we
We've
start?
both used them, we are using them. So we're not anti-apps, but how have they influenced? I think that just this idea of, there are so many different things that are happening at the same time, but essentially this idea of replaceability and help me out here, Esha.
I think they've just made, as I was saying before, I think they've created a culture around dating.
That's it.
The culture has completely changed. I think the most notable thing that's happened is that historically people used to meet people through through their work, through their friends. And in lieu of that, in many cultures around the world, like you would just get match made and set up. In my culture, you certainly
and in
used
my
to.
culture as well.
So I'm Indian, Ilana's Jewish. And in recent times, and the apps have been around or reached critical mass maybe 10 years ago, there's just this feeling that finding someone's just all on the individual. And to an extent, that's great, and we should all have autonomy and choice in this very important decision. But I found that people, until I actually said, I'm not going on the apps, people just never set me up with anyone because they're like, they just assume that you don't want that it's meddling. But I think that we all actually need a little bit of help with a lot of the important things in our lives, like finding jobs, if you're a freelancer, getting contracts, finding a partner, making friends in new cities and stuff like that. Like humans we're tribal, like we help each other with things. But this one thing that is so important to so many people don't help each other anymore. They just think, oh, no, I don't need to think about it. Whereas someone recently just said to me, like, I don't know her very well, and she was like, because I just recently came out of a relationship, she said, I'm going to keep my ear to the ground. And if I, meet anyone, anywhere, she said, all of my friends are too old for you. But if I am out and about and I happen to meet someone, I'm going to keep my ear out for you. And it was so nice hearing that. And I thought, imagine if everybody does that for everybody. Like, you might not need the apps.
Totally.
Yeah, when you spoke to that, like something about how you articulated the need for community and connection, it just felt right to me, like in my heart, like that's the way it should happen. And I've never been on the apps, right? I've met my partner. I never was on them anyway, but I met my partner organically just through just happenstance, really, or fate or destiny, or whatever you want to call it. And I've heard from so many people that the apps just suck your energy, that people are tired of the apps, that there is just strange behavior, like people dehumanizing other people. I've heard it mainly from the male side, and watch people engage with the apps like a game, like that trope of being a man who's going out to do damage on a night out, like go out and pull. And I think one of my favorite ever ways I've heard this described was, it's an awful one, but it's bag and tag. Like this, literally, right? This hunting mentality of going out to just, just to find sex, essentially. And so I feel like it perpetuates poor behavior on both sides. And I'd be interested to hear what your clients are saying to you about what they've seen on the apps and how they're feeling about them. And if they're sick of them, what comes up there?
To be honest, we spend very little time talking to our clients about their experiences on the apps because we're just so keen to get them off the apps and onto the list. But I can certainly speak for myself. And I am, I haven't had a terrible experience on the app. So I do hear about horror stories. I've been sort of blessed, and I've actually met some really great people on the apps who have then become my friends. One of my closest friends today is a guy that I met on Tinder like 3 years ago. But I think that, yes, it's that dehumanization element that you spoke about, because at the end of the day, even though we all know that there's a human behind that little match or that little icon on our app, somehow the fact that there are so many of those icons and we're having to swipe through them, we're looking at photos of people and it's all so curated and doesn't actually really represent who that person is behind the app. It just, and in addition to all of the other things that we have going on in our very busy lives, engaging with our phones. But at the end of the day, we just don't want to be sitting there responding to messages and engaging with people in this way. I think that leads to really bad patterns because we are just fatigued and tired and we're not really present.
Yeah, it leads, I think people, I know I got really burnt out by them because of the amount of time that you have to spend responding to people, and you end up having the same conversations over and over. It starts to feel like everything, there starts to become a formula to it. And whenever there's a formula to anything, you're kind of, again, it's very hard to have an authentic connection. So I think that I just couldn't. I did have some bad experiences where I just was like, they were either really boring or like I actually had a few people would just be really weird and disrespectful, or just be people that I just would never meet in real life, like through any circumstance. So maybe I just didn't know how to use them in the right way. And I think that's the other thing. You kind of almost have to learn how to use them. Like you kind of can't just go in there and blindly swipe and meet up with anybody. So So yeah, I think that I'm actually forgetting your original question, but I think that what I've observed is that if you're not using them in the right way and you don't have a way to manage them, it can become this thing that becomes very disappointing and soul-sucking and exhausting. Like you've actually got to have a strategy in terms of using them, and you've got to be disciplined with that strategy. It's like eating sugar versus a healthy meal.
Hello there. Just a quick one from me. If you're enjoying this conversation, the biggest thing that you can do to support the show is to hit the follow button if you're on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, and please do rate 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a like. All of these things are completely free. They really support our growth, and they also make sure that you get notified of any new content that comes out, so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're interested, you can follow Humankinder on Instagram at human_kinder, where I'm posting many different clips across different episodes and sharing content along the journey. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your listening, and now back to the show. Yeah, I'm interested in this whole area of social media generally and social media usage, and also the usage of the apps, because you mentioned almost like doing it consciously. And, one of the sort of findings that's coming out about social media is that most people actually want to be off it. And I feel like most people want to be off the apps, but they feel like they can't get off the apps because everyone else is on the apps or everyone else is on social media. And so if you're going to give advice to someone about if the apps are going to form part of your dating strategy, what way would you advise them to actually engage with them?
I would say, just like with anything really, everything in moderation. So I personally have sort of, when I'm engaging with the apps, I sort of tell myself, okay, I'm going to engage 2 evenings a week for a limit of about 20 minutes or 30 minutes maximum. And at that point, I'm actually going to, when I say engage, I don't mean just swipe. I'm actually also going to look at my inbox and see what's going on there in terms of who's written to me, because I don't want to perpetuate that same bad behavior that even though I am, might be consciously wanting to find the right person, I also sometimes just, don't respond to messages because I'm so exhausted at the end of the day. So I limit that. And I also have noticed that a lot of guys who I am engaging with on the apps, they really also don't want to be on those apps. And pretty much their opening messages a lot of the time includes their number. Let's take this off this app and let's have a chat. So I would suggest that engage consciously with the apps or don't engage with the apps at all.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's really easy to lose hours on them. I think that I read this thing once that was really interesting that said that your brain doesn't know whether rejection is real life or digital. And I think that there was a point in my life where I didn't actually get that, and I was, again, I just wasn't consciously dating, which is why I feel really passionate about the topic now, because I can see like when you're not doing it, how much it can actually damage you, and yeah, so your brain doesn't know whether the rejection is real or not, in a sense, and so you actually can't go into it taking the whole thing too personally. Like if you're on there and you're thinking, oh, like we're having a really nice conversation for 2 weeks, and like the last message I sent was this song that I'm listening to and he just hasn't replied. Did he hate that song? Does he hate me? Just something stupid. You start spiraling over things that like you don't know anything about this person. You don't know anything about their life. Like they're actually not real until you meet them in real life. So you really have to go in there and know that, and just know that this is a tool. To Ilana's point, you actually have to have a framework around it. And the more lighthearted you can be in terms of engaging with them, and not think, okay, this is how I'm going to find my partner, as opposed to thinking, oh, this is just something that we're in the modern world, people are on there. It's a potential avenue, just like playing a sport is a potential avenue, but it doesn't mean just by playing a sport I'm going to meet the love of my life. It's just something that's maybe a bit fun and distracting to do sometimes or whatever.
It's one tool in your arsenal in modern dating.
Yeah.
You know, and
You do have to have fun with it.
Yeah.
You do have to have fun with it.
Stay playful and open.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like the brain doesn't know. The brain doesn't know the difference. And we're in this situation where suddenly you don't have to be face to face with the person and like literally see the impact of what you're saying on the other person or face them or hear anything. So it does really incentivize bad behavior, consumerist behavior. And I love your advice about use it as a tool, use it what it's meant to be, to get off the apps and actually meet in real life and start to have more dates. And I'm really interested now in this whole, when people are converting and they're getting into dates, you hear a lot now about social atrophy and we've got worse at connecting. You hear about horror stories in first dates. What are you seeing out there about the early dating period and what either makes a great first date or what's your absolute no's in this whole space?
I think that people go on these dates and a lot of the time they're not actually super open and they're forgetting that a date where you haven't actually met the person before is kind of not really a date. You can call it date zero almost because you haven't seen them in a real life setting, so you don't have that sense of attraction to them already. Like you're really meeting them cold. So you kind of have to go into it with some level of openness, and how you cultivate that as an individual is really up to you, right? Like, but it is so important to go into it with a sense of this is another person who wants to connect, or you're assuming that you both want to connect. I think that's a separate topic of how when you meet people off dating apps, you don't have the same intention a lot of the time, but say you both do.
But assuming you're dating consciously.
Go into it, be open, and the number one way to be open is to actually be curious about the other person. I think we hear a complaint. We have had the complaint a lot. We hear it a lot that this other person did not actually seem interested in me. They weren't asking questions. They weren't delving into who I am as a person. And sometimes you can only do that to a certain extent on a first date. Like you've got to find a balance between being open and going into childhood trauma after 40 minutes. But that's a social skill. And the thing that you were saying about social atrophy is I think that people are spending so much time behind screens and people aren't going out as much with the intent of, hey, I might meet someone tonight or something like that. That it's almost like they're going on this date and thinking that it just has to be like really, really great from the get-go. But what are you doing to make it great?
We're not flexing the social muscle anymore, and that's why usually people who do well at dates are potentially even those that are more extroverted by nature or are used to talking to other people. And I think that it's just really important to firstly not be super judgmental. I think we're all very this kind of culture of like replaceability and fast-pacedness and optionality is really getting in our way of actually like trying to go a little bit deeper and trying to actually see who that person is behind the front of a first date. First dates can be really nerve-wracking for a lot of people, So we always suggest to our listlings that if it's not an instant no, as in I have zero attraction or I don't particularly like the person, we really encourage people to go on a second and hopefully a third date as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because there seems to be this perfection seeking where you want everything to be clean and nice and not uncomfortable, and you maybe have, because of your filters on the app or even because of a list that you have in your mind about the perfect partner, you're comparing someone against a fantasy rather than actually going in open to meet a person. I think that's a very different intention. So you spoke about intentionality around dating. What would you say is the right mindset or intention to take towards a first date?
I think personally that everyone should be doing some sort of a grounding or meditation practice before a date. I think if more people did that genuinely, took 10 minutes out of their day just to ground, center themselves and their energy, people would be actually probably getting into relationships more, because rather than it just being your brain and your everything being on autopilot after a busy day, you're actually bringing your full self and your heart and your mind to the date.
Yeah, and that's actually maps to the broader idea of awareness. Me and Ilana were talking a lot about today and what we wanted to talk about, and I think that one of the things that we don't bring into a first date or even just dating in general is awareness of who we are and what our limitations are, what our judgments are that we bring into interactions. They really do limit connection. And I've seen that play out personally in my life, and I've seen that play out around me. So I think that knowing yourself is so important in terms of the culture that we've got right now, which there's distraction all the time. You can if you're living in a city and you're a, I don't know, young professional, whatever you want to call that demographic, the world's at your feet. You can just be doing something at any minute of the day. And if you are seeking intimacy and love and are feeling like that's something that is missing for you, and it's not for everyone, so that's fine. But if it is, then you kind of have to get deeper with that and know like what you're really looking for and what's missing for you, or what you would like to add to your life. Because I think then that will change the interaction, right? If you're not just going into it going like, oh, like whatever, I mean, I don't really care, like either way. Like if you're going into it with a groundedness, like Ilana's saying, and then from a broader perspective, you've actually spent some time with yourself thinking about why this is not manifesting for you, then that's a good baseline, right? Then at the very least, you meet, ideally, if that's what the other person is also coming into it with, like no one says that you're going to fall in love. Like, I mean, sometimes I do think that there's an alchemy or a fate to it or something, but you might make a friend. It's kind of nice.
Absolutely.
Hello there. We'll get back to the conversation in just a sec. But first I want to share about something that's very close to my heart right now. I've been working with the Soul Alignment Method and Miles Trainer, who's been a guest on this podcast for the last number of years. And through that work, I've really learned how to uncover my own purpose, the elements of my own unique purpose blueprint, and now to help others do the same. And as part of Soul Alignment Method, the vision is a world where everyone knows who they are, why they are here, and can live it in this lifetime. This allows us to really make decisions that are in our highest alignment around career, around relationships, around lifestyle, location, and around our physical health and all the other areas of our life. I would like to offer to listeners of this podcast a completely free or donation-based initial session for 90 minutes where we go deep and draw out from within the unique elements of your soul's purpose, your purpose blueprint. If this is something that's interesting to you, you can visit my website at www.humankinder.com.au and contact me there, or go to the link tree in the description, which has all the links on my WhatsApp. And I would absolutely love to work with you on this if it feels in alignment. Thank you. And now back to the show. Yeah, let's dive into that question about, destiny and fate, and versus almost treating it like a business, right? Like I've seen two really different approaches. One is, I've got my list, I know what I'm after, I set my parameters on my apps, I go out intentionally and I treat it almost like a job, and it's a numbers game. And I just go through date after date after date, and because I want a partner. And the other is, let's just let it all flow and just see what happens and see what emerges and just go in openly. And I feel like there's a balance here between these two. And you mentioned intentionality, awareness, knowing what you're after. doing some self-work. If you are someone here now and you're thinking about, it hasn't happened to me for the last maybe 5 years, I've been trying, and I really want to change my approach. What are some of the things that you would advise them to start examining and doing like as practices to get themselves ready to meet that person?
Wow, it's a big question. But yes, I think know thyself is something that a theme that's really come through today. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but like doing the work really is becoming friends with the full version of yourself, whoever you are. That takes time, and you really need to dive in and be willing to dive in to understand who you are. Whether that's a spiritual practice, reading a whole bunch of books, going to an ashram in India, whatever it is that you need to do to get past your blockers. I think the word trauma is overused, but we all have something that's getting in the way of living our most fulfilled and rich lives. Start working on that, start figuring that out, and really be honest with yourself about not only what you want, but what you need from a partner to be fulfilled. Because I personally do this as well. I have a shopping list as well, right, of what I ultimately would love to have in a partner. But then when I actually look at myself, my life, what I'm doing professionally, my family background, my everything, and I actually dissect myself, I start to look at the list, my shopping list, and I start going, but that person is not necessarily going to fulfill my emotional needs in this way, or this super driven, super ambitious, super busy, intelligent person might not have, for example, the energy to be a really dedicated partner, which is actually what my nervous system needs. That's just me, right? But that's sort of, I think that's one thing, really getting to know yourself, Esha.
I think also knowing that dating is really different to being in a relationship.
100%.
Which is something that I discovered.
Yeah.
And I think that again, if you've been out there for a little while, like sometimes you can forget that. And I think that most of us have an idea about the sort of person that we want to be with, but I think that it's more important to think about the kind of relationship you want and how you want to feel in that relationship. And I guess the vision you have for the sort of life that you want to have with this person. And also think, like, are you that person? Like you again, you might have this list of, I want them to be like this and I want them to be like that and I want them to be securely attached and this and that, but are you? Like, so, like, think about how you're fitting into your vision. That's really hard. I mean, all of this stuff is easy to say, and there's lots of ways of getting to know yourself. But I think that really, really bringing it back to yourself will sort of give you as an individual, like I suppose the way, because it will be different for each person. Like when you really go, I think I'm the one who's creating this and I think I'm the common denominator in my problems, then you sort of take the focus away from this other person having to come in or swoop in and solve everything for you. And that's actually like a nice place to be in a way. I think it kind of shifts like your relationship with the world a little bit, and also in terms of dating, like I really feel like that at this point in my life, and I haven't had the easiest journey with it all, but I genuinely believe that, and it actually makes me feel better, which is kind of like what you want when you're going out there and looking for somebody.
Totally.
Yeah, it's two really powerful shares on that, because ultimately, if I'm not knowing myself and I'm not being honest and I'm not showing up as my authentic self, then how can I ever attract the person who's right for me? I look back on my own dating history, and there was a period I remember just having all the wrong motivations, right? status being a motivator, like looking purely at attractiveness, or looking at how does this person make me look better, rather than really understanding, well, who am I really, and then who's the person that would attract, and what do we really want in a partner. And I think this is just such an important topic. I'd love to hear from your perspective. What are the things that, let's say women first, what are the things that women think they want that actually gets in the way of them finding what they really need?
I think that
So much.
there's all the stuff that's kind of documented, right? They say that, and I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but 80% of women go for 20% of the men. And I was listening to a podcast this week that was said 90% of the women go for 10% of the men.
Top 10% of them, whatever that is.
And that top 10% are, they're tall, they're probably good looking, they're successful, they have money, all of that stuff. We all know it. I think that there is truth in that. I think that as soon as you become a little bit more aware of it, then you can actually go like, all right, like I know for myself, there was a time when I might be on dating apps and I would, and even just out there dating, and I know that I would turn away people that maybe they weren't in that top 10%, but they were definitely guys who were like ticking these certain boxes. And now I kind of see that, okay, like that's a little bit silly. And I actually it's probably better for me to not go for a guy that everybody wants. And that there's a certain, like, there are definitely more important qualities. I mean, now I feel like I sound like my parents who said all this to me when I was younger. How embarrassing. Ilana, you can take over now.
No, there's a lot of social commentators and psychologists who, Dr. K. Alok, what's his name?
Kanagia.
Yeah. Esther Perel talks about this a little bit as well, and Diary of a CEO. Help me out here. Whatever his name is. Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
Thank you. Basically, there's a lot of there's some sort of a pattern that women fall into that basically involves them going for slightly more avoidant, emotionally avoidant men, and men who, kind of are a little bit too cool for school and act a certain way, behave a certain way. And I understand all about the mysteries of seduction and the hot and the cold, and we all get it. But at the end of the day, again, we just need to be honest with ourselves. Like, what is it that we ultimately want? If it's a long-term partnership with someone, to build a family with someone, we're looking for very different qualities. So I think that if women are really, really clear about those sorts of dynamics, they can filter through very, very quickly to find the really good men. Then there's the whole, if they're too good and too nice, then it doesn't get maybe perhaps as exciting. But I think that women are able to also inject a bit of that excitement and a little bit of that, mystery into the relational dynamics. But I think something that we should probably speak about is vulnerability. I'm not sure if that's at some point on your list, Kian, but I think a big part of transitioning from dating into relationships is people's openness to being vulnerable. And both men and women, I think, struggle with this, but I think especially men. There's a quote by David Data: "A fearful man who knows he is fearful is far more trustable than a fearful man who isn't aware of his fear." And that's from The Way of the Superior Man. It's really, it can be, related to men and women, but basically just radical honesty, relational honesty, showing that kind of humanity builds trust. We all have certain fears. Being able to be okay with having them exposed. And that's something that unfortunately modern dating culture, we don't, because we're kind of on like autopilot. We're just dating. We're not getting often to the real relationship part of it, and we're losing our ability to connect and be vulnerable. And I think that's something that we all need to practice. And the other thing that I've started doing that I think is really helpful is getting feedback from not just 1 or 2 dates, but say you're in a bit of a, whatever you want to call it, a situationship. I don't like that word, but you're dating someone for 2 months. It usually takes, in my view, a solid 2-3 months to just barely scratch the surface to get to know someone. And I was recently seeing someone at around the 2-month mark. In my mind, I was like, this isn't working for me for these reasons. And we had a really conscious chat about it. We just sat down and we kind of went, all right, this is my feedback. And I said, and this is an open forum and I want your feedback. I want to understand what you've been thinking and feeling as well, right? And interestingly, I had every intention of breaking up during that conversation. But we ended up deciding, and I actually ended up liking him so much more after that chat because I was like, oh, we know how to communicate. We're communicating honestly. We are having difficult conversations and we're able to work through them. So that's something that I don't think people do enough these days. Would you agree, Esha?
Yeah, definitely. And I was just thinking while you were talking more about that, what are women looking for, and to an extent, I guess men as well. I think it can always be, or it can be boiled down to chemistry, right? Everyone's always going on about, oh, I was chemistry and I was so attracted to him. I mean, who hasn't thought that, who's been out there dating or felt it, that they're so excited about someone because they just have chemistry? I think that if you've kind of educated yourself on any level, like we all know that chemistry oftentimes does not mean compatibility and does not mean that you two are suited to a relationship. So I think that it's like we all want to feel attracted to someone. I mean, I don't want anyone to listen to this and think we're advocating for people to force themselves to be around people that they don't feel anything for, right? But I think that initial chemistry can just be such a lie, and I think that it's just something that is way too overstated in its importance. And I think that A, it's something that can grow, and B, it's something that when you sometimes have it from the get-go in spades, actually leads to a lot of problems later. I think a slow burn is nice, and I think like a little bit of something is important. Yeah. But a big flame at the beginning is just sometimes I think a bit of a recipe for disaster. But I think that a lot of people are looking for that. And when they kind of engage with it in a way that's, again, not intentional, they're not actually looking for the deeper signs of, is this person wanting the same things as me? Like, do we solve conflict well? Then all your traumas and patterns and whatever, I think, play out, as opposed to developing something that's meaningful and lasting.
Yeah. One of the themes that I hear building in this is actually that theme of building something rather than expecting to walk into it and see it fully complete in front of you.
Totally.
And one of the things I hear from men on your point of vulnerability is women are saying that they want me to be vulnerable, and then I go and be vulnerable, and then they leave because they're like, he doesn't seem confident, and I'm not here to baby him, right? And of course, that's not all women. But what would you say to men in this age where, you know, emotional intelligence is being asked for more and more from men? Just being a provider is not enough, and you need to round out your personality, but also like your spiritual ability to be in touch with something deeper. It seems like men are being asked to really grow and evolve, and one of those ways is vulnerability. And so what would you say to somebody who is a man who is in this dating world, maybe hasn't found someone and is kind of wondering where do they need to go and what do they need to do next? Like, what advice would you have for men?
I can start if you like. First of all, I just want to say that I feel for men. I feel for women as well. I feel for anyone in this modern dating world. But I do really feel for men because traditional gender roles are changing very rapidly. And I fully understand how that can be quite destabilizing for men. It doesn't excuse a lot of poor behavior that we are seeing. But I think that there are certain books that I think men need to read, one of which is David Data's book, and there's a few others. But essentially, my advice for men would be you can still be masculine and retain your masculinity, but be able to tap into that vulnerable side with a woman. I do think that real women want a little bit of vulnerability from men. They don't need them to be robotic in any way. You know, we love that, and we want them to see and feel our vulnerability and not be afraid of it. Like that's something that is actually really, really hard to get, particularly in Australia. I think that, you know, I'm not going to get into this sort of long-winded conversation, but I do feel that there is a bit of an aversion to emotionality, and men who want to find, a life partner, assuming they're heterosexual, they need to understand that by and large, women are emotional, and they will always be. And that doesn't mean that it's something that they need to be afraid of. Like, emotional is very different to someone who is dysregulated emotionally. So my advice is lean in, be honest, be yourselves, and be honest about your genuine sort of willingness to be in a relationship versus do we just want to have fun and date? And that's okay. Either are okay. There's no issue. But then just be upfront about your needs. Don't mask them behind this veneer of, I want something long-term and sustainable. And also, do not mess with women in their late 30s. Just don't. If you know that a woman is 35 and wanting something serious and you don't, please, for the love of God, just walk away.
Yes.
There are so many other women you could go for.
I think that so in terms of someone who's being, feels that they're being vulnerable, a man who feels like he's being vulnerable and he's getting knocked back because these women are thinking, ugh, like this isn't for me or whatever. I mean, it's hard to know like what the specific advice should be without knowing a particular situation. But broadly speaking, I'd say that if you actually know that being able to show your emotion is important, and being vulnerable is important because that's what leads to an emotional connection at the end of the day. And if you're listening to this, to all the stuff that we've said, and you're thinking, I want to be more aware and in touch and intentional about dating, if you're seeing someone and you're open with your emotion and that makes them pull away, then great. You know that they're not where you are.
Totally.
Like, don't save the opening. Like, I mean, don't start crying 5 minutes into the first date. I mean, again, like being socially adept and working on that side of yourself is knowing, like, being able to read the room and the pacing of getting to know someone. But when you're getting to know someone, you're showing them who you are and they don't want to know who you are.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah, it's just a sign. I don't, and I think that the man who's in touch with himself enough that he's showing an emotion at the right time, you know, like, again, reading the room and being like, I feel like I trust this person enough to open up to her, and then maybe something like if she shuts it down, then I mean, I wouldn't keep going personally, but if she's maybe like not receiving it like in a way that you thought she would, then maybe that's an opportunity to talk about why and go like, you know, why do you react like that? Or I was a little bit upset that you maybe didn't give me what I needed. I was trying to be really open with you. So yeah, I think that you can get frustrated with this stuff, or you can kind of go like, actually, I'm happy that this is where I'm at. Like, I'm happy I can share myself.
Agreed. Yeah.
One of the things, the narratives out there at the moment for men, speaking from the male perspective, is that it's a dangerous place to flirt, to approach people. There's a heightened fear in younger generations, but also in older generations, of how do I actually behave? How do I communicate to a woman that I'm interested sexually? How do I flirt well? And so I'm just so interested in your perspectives on the modern art of seduction, and how do we approach that in 2025 with all of this that's going on?
Esha and I are big proponents of flirtation. We love to flirt. I mean, flirting is just like the goodness of life, and flirting with women, flirting with men, it's not all about, in my view, a sexual thing, right? But I think, unfortunately, people don't flirt enough. And we see that a lot, Isha.
Yeah. I understand completely why a lot of men might feel a bit like, oh, I can't approach people and all of that stuff. I get it. We're kind of living in different times, and we should be living in times where people are more respectful. And I think I said read the room before, but I think that on a date, if you are feeling a little spark of attraction towards someone, you can make that spark bigger by flirting a bit, like being complimentary. People think of flirting as sexual, but it's just about making people feel good
and
showing
playing interest and
playing,
being playful.
And you can play with anybody, like you can. And again, it is sometimes like a little bit of a skill. I know people feel shy and are sometimes like afraid to put themselves out there in that way, and I do understand that. Me and Ilana are both quite extroverted, so I guess you could say, well, it's easy for you to say I shut down when I like somebody or something like that, which is fine. But again, like if you kind of want to inject a little bit of play into an interaction and make it feel a little bit like light, like that is actually what will relax you and the other person. You both might not be flirty, but if one of you can be a little bit flirty, like it definitely changes the energy of a date. I don't know how people become more flirtatious as opposed, like beyond thinking about it differently and thinking about, like, I would like to make this person feel good. I'd like to say like, oh, your hair looks really nice. I love that shirt. Where'd you get it from? Like that color really suits you. These are such basic things you can say to somebody that then lead to something else, like could bring them out going, oh, really? Like, it shifts the dynamic. I also think that being like that, we said it's not necessarily about being sexual, but when you kind of play a little bit more like that, it does over time put you a little bit more in touch with like your sexuality a bit, which is also fun,
Absolutely. I mean, I remember and look back to the times when I would when I would go out to bars in my 20s. And I think back then there was a little bit less consciousness and a little bit less fear around flirtation. There were also, the dating apps were not a thing really, right? So men would approach more. I think that in general, and again, it's like a cultural thing that it doesn't happen as much in some of that kind of Anglo-Saxon cultures. But I think generally speaking, like men used to come up to women more just randomly. And I personally always really enjoyed that. And even if I'm not going to pursue that, I'm not going to necessarily give them my number, I was always very, very respectful and very nice, because I know that it takes balls to come up to a woman and to talk to a woman. And if there are male listeners listening to this podcast, Kian, I will say to them, I assure you, women love to be flirted with. Women love to be complimented, if you mean it, not if you're just making it up. But women love to feel attractive and to be told that they look they look good or they're intelligent or whatever it is. So I would say the more we like each person flirts, the better.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's such a fun part of life, and I think that when you go to other countries and you see how it's a little bit more part of their culture. I'm separating this from any discussions around obviously unwanted attention or anything that's problematic. Okay, like that's a separate discussion. But if it's something where you're kind of open to it and you're having fun, like it's nice. Like when you go to Southern European country, and I think I was in France with Ilana a couple of years ago, and I went to get some fruit from the supermarket, and the guy behind the who was serving me just said in French, gosh, you have really nice teeth. And I was like, huh? It just kind of made me laugh. It was so silly and random, but it was cute. It was funny, Nothing was going to happen. We weren't going to like suddenly go on a date, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The French, the Italians, they're experts at flirtation. And, obviously sometimes we understand that we are like maybe one of 10 other women that they might be flirting with that day. But you know what? It's okay, because in that 30 seconds, we feel good. And
they feel good because they're like, I made her laugh. Great.
Exactly. We feel more attractive. We're tapping into that sensuality, which is really playful and really beautiful. We should never, ever lose, I think, touch with that. Mm.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult transitions that you can make in the early stage of the relationship is from the friend to the potential romantic interest. Because I think you can learn rapport building skills, you can learn how to ask people about their lives and listen and summarize, and all those things are really, really powerful. But there's something to how do you turn that friendliness into potential flirtation and potential connection. And that's a transition that I have experienced needs to happen. And it needs to happen actually quite early on, maybe date 1 or date 2. Like date 1, I feel like you can be friends and leave that being like, oh, friends, this person is safe, this person is normal, this person is great. But if you go to the second date and you're still in that place by the end of the second date, I feel like you're heading for a friend zone.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear if you've got anything that you could say to men or women about how they can flirt safely and sort of confidently, because that might fill someone with absolute terror, like the expectation of how to flirt. But yet it's such a powerful little skill and it can be so enjoyable. So how do you advise people or make it easy? Like you shared some things. What else can people take away from this podcast? Say, I'm going to try that next time I meet someone.
I think if you feel a little bit of attraction for someone, I mean, the thing is that if you go on a first date and you're not really attracted to the person, you probably don't want to flirt with them because you don't want to give them the wrong idea. But say you are attracted to them and you make it to, say, date. It's not obvious on the first date, but you do make it to a second date and even a third date. Like, just compliment them. Just start with a compliment. That's because that's as basic as it is, right? Like compliment them. Think about the times like when you have felt flirty and you have had flirtatious conversations, and I don't know, bring a little bit of that energy into it. I said it before, so I hope I'm not repeating myself. But I just think about how will I make this person feel good. I think they're cute or pretty or whatever, and there's something about them. I'm gonna try and make them feel nice.
And the other thing I would say is create the environment where that can happen. And what I mean by this is I'm all for conscious dating, which, conscious as in not necessarily going on drinking dates and all that. I'm all for walking dates and going on hikes and going on daytime adventures. Love it. Do that on a first date if you like. Maybe on a second date as well. But then at some point very soon, you want to put yourselves in a situation where potentially there is a little bit of alcohol involved or something where a woman can get dressed, take her to a nice restaurant so that she can put on a nice dress and look sexy so that you will be able to compliment her, because it's all well and good doing a 3-hour hike and sweating your ass off, and a little bit more difficult for a woman to feel sexy in that environment. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that the principle is really around making people feel good. Because if you, as a guy, if you actually think, I'm going to make this woman feel good, broadly speaking, like let's forget about the actual mechanics of flirting, but you actually think, I'm going to make her feel good. And I'm not going to make her feel good because I've got an outcome that I'm looking for. Like, I'm going to make her feel good because I think she's cool. I'd like to get to know her better. So whether maybe your thing is not going to a bar and drinking, for example, right? But maybe it is going for a walk, and then you think, okay, on this walk, she might be hungry at this because it's around lunchtime. Maybe we'll go to that particular cafe because I know it's really nice and they have really good sandwiches and great coffee. So I'm kind of going to like work this out so that we're going to go for a walk, and then at the end we might go to this place that I know is good, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to ask her lots of questions and stuff. Like that as your baseline kind of then allows you to like move to that level of like being able to like, because she'll relax more, right? The reverse is like from a woman's like point of view. I mean, I know that I'm also speaking to quite to gendered norms here, so I hope I'm not like offending anyone, but this does come from us speaking to all our friends and people around us. Like generally speaking, in heterosexual dating, like a woman likes to feel like the guy is like, you know, making a little bit of an effort to make her comfortable. So when she's like more comfortable, then obviously people's energy changes, and she's going to be more receptive to like when you kind of maybe do like throw out like a flirty comment or whatever. But if your mindset is, I want to make this person feel good, like naturally the attention comes off of you and onto them, and they will feel it. And that's how a flirtatious dynamic takes place, right? I think this stuff can be really overthought.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like when you think about dating, going into a relationship is, we want the foundation to be love, and the foundation of love is I want to make you feel good and I care for you, and that's encompasses so many things. In the beginning, it's I'm gonna, you know, plan something nice and tell you your shirt looks good.
I also just quickly want to make a note about it, just talk about courtship, because I think that a lot of men these days with, you know, a step away from traditional sort of male-female dynamics and gender roles are getting confused around this stuff, understandably so. By and large, the women that we're working with still have more traditional ideas around the beginning of the dating relationship. They like to be courted. Women do generally like to be courted. And that doesn't mean like you need to sort of go above and beyond, but we really like to see men who make an effort in planning our first dates. A different conversation around who pays for what. We can get into that if you want, but less about actually paying and more about be proactive and actually make the woman feel like you're really making an effort. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I love it.
If you like someone.
Yeah, chivalry is not dead at all.
No,
and
not at all.
I think there can be times, of course, every individual is different, and whatever works, you work that out when you're on a date with someone or you're having those conversations. But generally speaking, when you look at what people say to you, what women report, what men report, there are these roles and different principles and things that work. And one of the things that I'm curious about is touch, when to bring it in, how to bring it in a way that feels safe and flirtation, to know how to do that. And then obviously that leads into the conversation about sex, which is something I want to get into as well, about how to navigate that in the modern world. But let's start with the transition from chivalry and great conversation and flirting to touch, and how to really bring that in well.
I guess I can start. I personally am a very tactile person, and that's actually one of my love languages as well. So I really enjoy that, particularly when I'm attracted to a man, when there's, you know, not talking about sex at this point, just the precursor to an intimate relationship. If my body language is relaxed and I'm flirting and there is an invitation for some sort of a touch, I think men shouldn't be afraid to put their hand on my hand or on my thigh or on my back. Little tiny things like that, I think can, and then obviously they need to gauge how a woman responds, right? I will most likely respond well. Esha will probably respond well if she's attracted. I'm not sure I'm not sure if this is all women, yeah? But generally speaking, a man needs to read the room. And if the woman responds well to that, then that is his invitation for maybe a little sort of playing on the edge. It's mine.
I think that if, again, I know that it's also case by case, but if you've kind of made it to, say, a second or third date, you can probably assume that some sort of physical contact is okay, right? And sometimes, like, I guess, like, if you're kind of really unsure or something, I mean, you could ask, like, you know, can I touch you?
Yeah, you could.
But I think that, yeah, sometimes you have to be, like, a little bit brave and just, yeah, like, something that seems light and respectful. Like, if you are attracted to this person and you want to touch them, then if you just kind of, like, take it like step by step. I mean, again, you'll gauge pretty fast if someone's not really like into it. If you go on a third date or something and you haven't touched at all or kissed at all, I mean, it can be confusing because then you're like, oh, are we really into each other? And these are all the vagaries of dating that like are hard to navigate. But I guess if you're both responding to each other and like you keep seeing each other, then I guess like something is developing, and the touch and the kissing and whatever is going to happen at some point if you're both that way inclined, you know. Has that answered your question?
Yeah, and the reason I'm giving this the attention I feel it deserves is because we don't talk about this across genders, and for different people have a different experiences growing up. And some people might have never really had it explained to them or learned anything about kind of like the mechanics of how this thing works. Because we've been given this romantic fantasy, and a lot of this could do with romantic movies and this idealized version of relationships where it should just happen. And it should be a spark and all these things just happen and it flows from thing to thing. Whereas in my experience, the reality of it is sometimes it is like it's scary and courageous, but there are moments. There are moments when you go, okay, like I really want to kiss this girl, you know? And there's that terror, right, that comes up. But then there's the courage to push through that, or I'm going to touch for the first time, right? And where and when to do that and how to gauge. These things are subtle skills. Sometimes they come very intuitive to people. For other people, they don't. And they need to be learned and observed. And when they are, then that can be really powerful. It can be the difference between unlocking a relationship that can be the best thing in your life or never finding one.
I think everyone needs to remember that no one wants to feel awkward on a date. Everyone actually really just wants to feel comfortable. So if you're, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, and if you're feeling nervous or a little bit, you know, awkward or whatever it is, sometimes you just need to name it. Be open and be honest. Be like, feeling a little bit nervous. I'm sorry, I really like you and I'm feeling just a bit nervous. Like, that'll immediately break the ice. And the other person will actually just be like, it's kind of cute that he or she just said that, you know?
I think also if you're if male or female or whatever, like I think that if you are actually on a date or on a whatever number date it is and you're kind of nervous about whether like you should touch someone or not, isn't that kind of nice?
Yeah.
Because it means that you like them and you want to touch them and you're thinking about how this like might affect them. And I think people want it to be really easy and seamless and for most people, it's not completely easy and seamless. Like there's some level of awkwardness to navigate or to get around, especially again, like when you haven't necessarily met someone in a natural circumstance, like you haven't already met them out and kissed already. So you've kind of broken that barrier already. Like when you're starting from zero, and you're kind of even figuring out your attraction, it is like quite nerve-wracking and a little bit like I don't know what the word is, but if you like them enough to keep seeing them multiple times, I think there is kind of I think there's actually something, it can be viewed as a positive thing that you're actually even worried about it. Like I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for that, like making the implicit explicit. I remember when I met my partner, I said, hey, I really want to kiss you. And she said, well, go on then. Right?
Great.
And it's like, you almost think you can't say that, or like you have to somehow just do everything right and like behind the scenes be like intricately making sure that everything's good and like managing the whole experience so much. Whereas actually I think people have a lot more give than you think when you just be real.
Be real.
You just be real.
Totally.
And one of the areas that it's hard to be real about is saying no and putting boundaries in. And also if someone is flirting with you and you don't want it, or if you're on a relationship and you feel like it's not going anywhere and you want to say something, there's a huge rise obviously in ghosting, being ghosted. A lot of men talk about just being ghosted. A lot of women talk about, everything's going really well and then suddenly bang. And it's it's one of those, it's almost a shameful part of our modern dating that people feel like it's okay to just not write back to someone and then maybe pick it up 2 weeks later or never pick it up at all. And so I'm interested in your advice for people on if it's not going somewhere or you don't want it to progress, you don't want people to move it forward. How do you do that in just a healthy and respectful way that leaves everyone better off?
I just believe, and Esha knows all of my dating adventures over the last 4 years, I've been radically honest, and I expect that from men as well. Like, that is really the best way to approach any situation. I have been the one writing the messages sometimes or giving the calls and saying, listen, for whatever reason, that you're great. I'm just, either the timing's wrong or I'm not feeling it or whatever it is. But it's a human being. Have some respect. You've engaged them. They've dedicated their time. They've given you their attention. Let them down gently. It's so much better than ghosting. Ghosting is horrible if you think about it, So my thoughts are practice. If it's a rejection, it's okay, but just practice articulating it and sending them that message with grace. They will really appreciate it and understand it and move on.
Yeah, I think it's about cultivating what you want more of in the world. Even though I'm saying all of this stuff and I know a lot about this stuff, I know sometimes I've just not wanted to get in touch with that person because you're busy and, oh God, I don't want to deal with writing to this person or whatever. But it's like anything, like sometimes being better is hard. So, but if you just think about it from the point of view of if more people, if no one ghosted anyone and just sent that message or made that call, how much less pain and hurt and disappointment there'd be in the world. And it doesn't even mean that the person that you're dating is even taking your interaction that seriously. Maybe they aren't going to be that upset about hearing that you aren't really feeling it and you're both totally on the same page, and it's like, okay, that was nice. See you later. Or see you never. But if you just say that, then you've kind of smoothed out a social interaction. You've made it not awkward if you ever bump into that person again. It's just being kind. Just be kind.
Yeah. And I'd also like to say that something that we can talk about later about the list itself, but I feel that because of the fact that it's the network effect and it's friends of friends, or you're being matched through this list, right? And there's a sense of accountability, and so people behave naturally better even if they don't want to go on that sort of third date, they give us the feedback, and then usually they just give the person the feedback straight away. So there's that level of accountability that you have on a platform like this that you wouldn't have from a dating app.
Yeah. I want to talk about sex.
Fuck yeah.
And I feel like this is another area where we don't talk about enough, right? Across genders and generally. And we talk about it in our friends, and we know that women tend to speak more about it than men. One of the things I've noticed about coming into my early 30s is that we no longer ever talk about it as men, sex at all. And, you know, from a male perspective, sex is something that obviously is very prized, and men's libido generally tends to stay pretty much the same as we go through our lives. Women's does tend to decline. And so I'm wondering about this whole area, what advice you would give to a man of how to approach the area of sex when you're looking for love and you're looking for a long-term partner.
Well, as soon as you were saying that, I actually wanted to push back a little bit, because women's sex drive doesn't actually decline. So actually what happens is women's sex drive, I mean, this is, I'm not sure if it's definitely anecdotal, but I do think there's science behind it as well, that women's sex drive can actually increase as she's like going toward her 40s. Maybe there's something to do with biologically to do with the last burst before you're no longer able to have a baby or something like that. I also think what happens to women as they get older, they get more comfortable with their bodies and their sexual identity. And I think I've seen this happen across the board. What happens with men is actually they have a lot of testosterone when they're younger, and actually testosterone in men does tend to decline. So I think that there's a narrative and a little bit of a stereotype that men are just gunning for it like the entire time, and women are like, no, I don't want it or something. But
especially, one other thing, if you look at the statistics these days of around testosterone and erectile dysfunction, which is really prevalent in men in their 20s.
And there's a lot of porn usage as well. So a lot of men are growing up and binging on porn, which is actually changing the way that they relate sexually in dating. And that's that pool of people that I spoke about before that are single and looking. A lot of those men who are a little bit older, like say in their 40s and haven't been with someone for a long time, have been consuming a lot of porn up to that point, and it actually has shifted their sexual appetite for a real life woman. So I think, can you ask your original question again, the end part of it, so that I can?
I think that's a really interesting little tangent there. And my question really is, if you're wanting to progress a relationship towards love and finding a long-term partner, you know, how should you approach this area of sex as a man and as a lover?
Yeah. Well, back to the point about what I was saying, that it's obviously fraught and there's a lot going on with it, and we all have certain narratives that have been internalized from when we were younger. And what I'm seeing play out, or what we're seeing play out, is that for a lot of men who've been dating for a while and haven't actually been in a long-term relationship for ages, and is that they're sort of getting sexual with a real woman and getting into relationship sex is something that's now a realm that's separate from like this fast fix sex that they can get very easily as a single man. They can watch porn, they can, you know, pick up someone off an app really quickly. Sex is actually quite easily gettable in a lot of ways. So I think that what that does is it means that we don't develop like the depth of our sexuality by having this like fast food sex and stuff, especially like I've seen it happen to a lot of men, and it makes connecting with women, real women, or a woman that maybe you're thinking you want a relationship with, a lot harder. And I think that if you want as a man to have a relationship that has like a sexual spark from the beginning and a sexual spark that you develop and are excited about over time, I think you've got to really watch like your habits as a single man
100%.
in relation to sex. Like, what are you doing to foster a healthy sexual dynamic with the person that you're going to call or you want to call your partner in the future?
And the other thing that I would add to that is we are meeting, there's men who are kind of in the let's say, for lack of a better word, the conscious community, who are much more aware of sort of that they've experienced tantric kind of tantra and tantric sexuality, and they understand about connecting with a woman on a sort of more spiritual level. I would say that men just need to remember that if you want to have a really healthy sexual relationship with a woman that you're serious about, you need to work on peeling away the layers in terms of being inquisitive, being curious, getting to know her, connecting on a deeper, more authentic level. And then, because a woman, women also want sex. Like, I think that there is this sort of these stereotypes, but really, if you listen to Esther Perel and do your own research, you know that women are actually, very, very sexual beings and want that often just as much as men. It's just that it takes a little bit longer for them to be able to properly open up. And
it's also more like a woman's sexuality, I think, can be layered and complex, and each woman's definitely a little bit of a puzzle to solve. And I think that as a man, like, actually knowing that and being excited and curious about it, as opposed to I'm sexually frustrated and I want to have sex. Like, it's two different things, right? Like, being excited about a sexual journey with someone as opposed to I just want to have sex are two very different concepts. And I think if you actually met someone, like if I met a man who was thinking about sex like that, like they're attracted to me, they want to have sex with me, but they actually see it as something that's like an exploration as a couple, that's so attractive. That's so attractive. And you can feel it. You can feel it, like, and even if you can't feel it initially, it becomes like very obvious, the mindset of that man around sex. And I think that if you're genuinely a man who's thinking about like sex in a much more like conscious, progressive, modern way, I don't think it's going to feel as scary in the interaction with women as maybe it does for some people, because you are going to be like, you're going to actually like try and understand women's sexuality as opposed to your own sexual needs.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think men get wrong about what women want in the bedroom?
So much. What do men get wrong about what women want in the bedroom? Look, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because we are on a podcast, and who knows who will be listening to this. I'd like to be able to share it with our parents. I would just say that if I was to summarize, I think like what some of my best experiences have been in the bedroom have been with when there's no clock. Men just are able to create that space and that time and go slow. That is really key. It's not about skill per se. I think a lot of men do have fear around sexual performance, of course, naturally. Biologically, there is more that a man, needs to do, physiologically, right? But I think that if a man just knows how to create, both men and women know how to create space, time, sensuality. I think, there's a book, I forgot the author, it's called Come As You Are. Have you heard about this book?
Yeah.
I'll look up the author at the end, but basically, apparently it's like mind-blowing and like incredible for both men and women to read, and it's all about female pleasure. And I think that, that would be a really useful tip for men.
Yeah, I think that I don't necessarily know if I mean, again, you can't really know what's going on in every individual's life, but I don't know if people are necessarily doing things wrong as much as they're not being curious about the area of sex in general. And I think that maybe if there's anything that a man might be getting wrong, it's that he's maybe just not thinking about the concept broadly, and he's not educating himself on it. So if you are relying on ideas you've had about sex from when you were if you're a man, say in your 40s, from when you were in your 20s, and you haven't really done much thinking about it. And there's so many resources out there now. There's books, there's podcasts, there's everything. There's things on YouTube. If you're not actually curious about the area, unless you're very naturally in tune with your body and other people's bodies, great. But if you're not, and you've never really bothered to think about it as and a really important part of a relationship and something that you'd really like to give to a woman, then how will you get it right?
And it goes both ways, hey? It really does, because there's so much to a man's sexuality that a woman, I think, I've been blessed to have experiences. My ex-partner was very playful in the bedroom, and play being the key word here. Like, he really enjoyed playing. And I learned about his sexual fantasies and psychology through that process. And I think that it's really important for a woman to also be curious and go beyond the I'm here, yes, you'll be satisfied in this act, but what are you giving me? What's in it for me? Like, that should just be taken off the table. Like, two people should want to be really pleasing each other.
Yeah, one of the big themes that has come out across the whole cycle, if you like, of meeting someone, of getting to know them, of having dates, of working on your sex life, has just been authenticity. And this deconstruction of being performative. I think one of the biggest lessons that I had in my relationships has been that women don't want you to perform. They want to feel like you're really there and that you're really present, and vice versa as well. You don't want a woman who's performing and they're going through a certain routine that has been learned, whether that's on a first date and you're just going through a routine of your list of questions, or whether it's in the bedroom. And so, yeah, I think overall just echoing this idea of authenticity and, yeah, really trying to drop the mask as much as possible. And that's what brings me to what you both specialize in, which is creating in real life connections and community. And I'd love to hear why you're so passionate about taking 150 people and bringing them together and creating events and community, and why you're investing time, energy in that approach.
Well, I mean, I think that I was dating for a long time, and I found it really frustrating. I found it demoralizing, and all of the stuff that we've been talking about. I mean, that's all stuff that I've learnt along the way, and I think that you can only kind of know the truth of something based on how it makes you feel. And I know that since I've actually become a lot more conscious about this part of my life, I feel much better. I feel more excited about dating and meeting someone. And I just look at lots of people who are dating and frustrated and feeling lonely. And I just think that it would be, I think of myself 5 or 6 years ago, and I think if there was something like this, something like the list, a dating community where, it's not super serious, it's not like traditional matchmaking, which can get a really bad rap. It's not the dating apps. It's something that can give me a sense of opportunity, but also a place to learn and become more conscious and stuff like that. How much difference that would have made to like my life and my experience, and it would have made me feel a lot more hopeful. And I think that I feel really passionate about it because I think that what a great way to be able to give people a little bit of hope and opportunity. And even if they don't meet their person on the list, I genuinely think by having a little bit of hope and opportunity, it changes your energy, and that could mean lots of great things for you. Like you might just be more adventurous in general and take new opportunities, and then you might meet your person that way. So that's what I see it as, and I just feel like really happy about creating something like that for people.
Essentially, I mean, Esha summarized it so beautifully, but we want to create an environment for love where love can thrive. I think that, we don't promise that you'll meet the love of your life necessarily on the list. You may, we hope so, but you're going to learn how to connect in a deeper and more meaningful way with people. You're going to feel better about your singledom and your situation and your life. You're going to meet wonderful people who may become your friends. You're going to feel less lonely because you're going to feel part of a community. We're really going to curate special events, not just like the big singles events that are happening left, right, and centre. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily bad, but we're going to bring speakers to our events. We're going to make them educational, interactive. It's not only going to be single people. We're going to invite some of our coupled friends, so there's not going to be that element of desperation.
Not saying that that's what happens at other events, but sometimes it can be a bit full on when you go to a singles event and then everyone's, I don't know, there's a certain energy, and
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we just kind of want to make it something that like makes people feel like, oh, this is actually a really fun part of my single journey or something. I'd really love people to be on there and feel like, oh, this is just a great part of my life, and it'd be, something that they even think back on, like when they do meet someone and go like, oh, it was really cool being part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what's really beautiful about the fact that Esha and I are both doing this is we've been very, very close friends for the last, let's say, 5 years, known each other longer, but and that's another thing. Like, yes, we want to help people in their romantic relationships, but let's not forget that love is so multifaceted, and there's romantic love, there's kinship, there's friendship, and the love that Esha and I have for each other is like so incredible because we are in a relationship. We help each other navigate the complexities of romantic relationships, but we want to just give people firstly we do feel that we've learnt so much about this over the years, and we want to give them a sense of hope and inject a sense of joy back in dating because we've really lost that. Create as I said, create that environment for love to thrive.
Especially for those people that are feeling intentional about what they're looking for, because it's not going to be it's not going to be for everyone, and that's totally fine. Everything that we're saying is it might not be for everyone, and they might not be in that place. They might not want something like monogamous. They just might be totally, and it's great. Like if you're just totally fine doing your thing and you don't want to be with anyone now or for a while, great. That's awesome. But if you do, I think that sometimes like when you're searching and not finding, it's painful. So those are the people that it'd be great to help.
Yeah, we should just clarify this is for heterosexual men and women in their, let's say, 30s and 40s and early 50s at this point, who are looking for a monogamous relationship, ideally looking for a life partner with whom they want to build something with. And there's something else I wanted to say. I forgot.
We're basically focusing on straight dating because that's what we know. Who knows how things will evolve. Yes. If it's about helping people, I want to help everyone, but it's good to start manageable and work your way up. So that's what we're focusing on, and like these people are generally looking for a monogamous relationship, potentially a life partner. Again, I'm of the belief that these things are self-created. So I think I've actually looked at a lot of matchmaking sites, and they promise the world, and I don't want to promise that. I just want to say that this is something where it's going to make dating more fun, and it's going to help you get more in touch with yourself, which is going to be better for your life, your dating experience, and the relationship you're going to have. But you are in control of that ultimately, like we all are on some level. And
we're just going to handhold you through this process, as in setting intention, understanding what it is you want, getting really clear about that and where you're at in your life, during the dating phase, and then also sort of post, as you sort of are entering into a relationship. We have a really, really extensive network of relationship coaches and therapists and people that we can sort of refer our listlings to as they enter that phase of hopefully a long-lasting, sustainable relationship.
Yeah, I think you're going about it like so beautifully to curate that and really think about the whole life cycle of this. And what you're proposing here is, it's really not about finding a match. It's about creating human connection and community in a world where that's been really lost. And there's a real sad reality to the convenience of modern life with apps. You know, with 19% of people in the US speaking to an AI partner, right?
That's crazy.
In the last year, that it's slowly killing us. But yet there's a deep yearning inside people to meet in person and to connect, and just feels so, so different. And what's really holding us back, I feel, is convenience, but also fear. And so what you're doing here is you're taking the fear out of it. You're taking the inconvenience out of it. You're making it easy for people to meet in real life and connect at events that you would actually want to go to anyway. Right?
Yeah,
totally.
And I feel like that's just such a hopeful message, because what I'm seeing across the board, whether it's got to do with social media or whether it's got to do with dating apps or in many dimensions of life, people are pushing back against technology being the thing where they spend a lot of time on. And people are, you know, whether it's getting brick phones, whether it's meeting up with strangers during the week, people want this. And so, yeah, I'm interested in your perspective on how humanity and how us as a Western society, because that's where we live, are evolving and what the future is going to look like in this space.
Well, there's all these AI apps that are coming out, especially in the US, that are about utilizing AI and algorithms to match each other, which, I mean, to an extent, the dating apps kind of have the data and probably the means to be able to do that already, right? Like, I can't imagine how much data like a dating app would have on somebody who's been on the apps for 3 or 4 years, because they're also connected to your social media profiles a lot of the time. But there's companies that are specifically marketing themselves as AI dating, and this will lead to better matches. There was a company called Amata, I think, that
what happened with that?
I don't know what happened with it, but they were all over social media for a while. I just thought, have these posts all been created by AI? And they were asking people for to download the app or give info to go to the world's largest singles mixer, and the AI will connect you to someone. And I don't know if it was all just some online scam or something, but I think that there's just going to be more and more of that. There's going to be more and more promises of AI being the thing that's going to give us better matches. But I think, again, it's a fallacy, because I just don't think human connection works like that. And I just think that AI is going to make certain things easier, but you're going to have the part of the population that's going to push back more and more against it, to use it in ways that it's inevitable for work and whatever. But I think that the fact that dating apps share prices have plummeted, Bumble's cut, I think, 20 to 30% of its staff. I think all of that stuff is showing that people are actually tired of technology in these realms where it's all about real life. Like, yes, technology is going to make work different, and so many things in the service industry different, but we're people, we're animals. And so I think that there's actually going to be more and more bespoke solutions like ours that are going to use the AI to build like the framework of the company and the comms and things like that.
Methodology as well.
But I think that it's all going to actually like foster more real life connection. So, I mean, yeah, there's all this doom and gloom around like the AI girlfriends and this and that and whatever, but and maybe for a certain part of the population that will be a massive problem. But I have hope that there is always going to be that section of us that still craves people.
Definitely. And we can't lose hope. And I think it's just all about, I mean, even I think the young people are tapping back into this. You know, there's a lot of stats around the Gen Zs?
Gen Z.
And how they're sort of really one of the more conservative generations. They're getting off their phones. They want to meet in real life. The other day I was walking in Bondi. Last Saturday there was a coffee rave happening at 10 in the morning, and I looked inside and it was mainly young'uns, you know, in their 20s and maybe early 30s, just having a little boogie with their coffee cups, interacting, engaging, and it really filled my heart with joy. I think that's those sorts of events are also what we're trying to create.
Yeah,
I love it. I really feel what you're describing here of this, just people are just sick and tired of the extractive nature of technology and the apps, because they pull energy from you. They really do. It's like you're putting energy in, and then when you get off, you feel depleted. Whereas when you go to an in real life event, and maybe you're an introvert and it's a little bit more difficult to you, but I think everyone wants to connect and feels that energetic lift of being around people in whatever way has come from them. And so I see this as well massively, people kind of breaking off more into smaller communities, and whether that's around food production, whether it's around dating and community and what you're creating, whether it's just about community events and gatherings and getting together, men's circles, women's circles. Like, I'm so here for this.
Totally.
And it's really heartening to hear that younger people are interested in this as well, because I think that's the future. The future is in real life, human connection.
100%.
Is there anything else that you would like to share that we haven't covered, or?
I feel like we've covered a lot.
We have.
Yeah.
How do people get in touch with us, Esha?
Oh, if anyone's interested, you can go to jointhelist.co and all the information will be there about getting on the list, or if you just have questions for us. I really hope that people who listen to this who are having trouble with dating and are feeling like they're not going to meet their person and are feeling frustrated by it, or anything. Disheartened. I don't know, I hope they feel a little bit more, even if it's not even about the list, but even if you just think about the stuff that we've said and how, I guess, hopeful me and Ilana actually both feel about the landscape, even though there's so much to feel negative about, because you're also fed that negativity by the media. You don't have to buy into it. Like there are single people out there, and there's great single people out there, and there's people that want the same things as you. Because look around you, like lots of people are in great relationships, so it happens. If it's happening to them, it can happen for you. So no one should feel hopeless.
Don't have the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve anyone. There are so many great people out there.
Yeah.
Men and women.
Yeah.
And we're starting in Sydney, but watch this space. We're going to go nationally and then hopefully internationally. I want to leave your listeners, Kian, if you'll let me, with a beautiful poem by Khalil Gibran from The Prophet. It was written in, I think, 1923, but it's just so timeless. So here goes. It's called On Love. When you love, you should not say... Sorry, this is an excerpt, I will say. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires: to melt, and to be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to walk at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're turning pain, you're turning struggle into art. Right? You're seeing an opportunity here to do good in the world in a way that both of you are uniquely placed to do good in. And I think that that's what we're here to do, to follow those things. And thanks for having the courage to come on here and speak about these things in a topic really where everyone has an opinion, because everyone is living it. It can be scary to come on and speak your mind and speak your heart. So thank you very much for doing that, and the very best of luck. And if anyone's listening to this and they are in that position where they want to meet someone, then I could not recommend two better people to help you on that journey.
Thank you, Kian.